NASA says they're going back to the moon on April 1st. I need you to let that sit with you for a second. The first manned mission back to the moon in over 50 years, and the date is on April Fool's Day. But before we get into that, I need to know if you remember this. Look at this shit.
This is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon, and we're going to have humans in low Earth orbit. That is awesome.
Really?
We should, as humanity, we should take a brief moment.
I thought we did this already.
That's awesome.
Jump down the rabbit hole. You have millions of people who don't even believe we went to the moon the first time. And then we fast forward, and they make their launch day on a day that's built around jokes. You got guys like Buzz Aldrin being pressed in interviews about what actually was seen up there. You got a filmmaker, Bart Siebel, confronting astronauts, claiming the footage was staged. And then you got Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon, who later kept a very low profile and rarely did interviews. Now go back to the beginning. 1969 Apollo 11 moon landing. America lands on the moon in the middle of the Cold War. Massive pressure, global attention. And then while they're up there, they do the unthinkable. Something that still puzzles me to this day. They take a phone call from the president. You heard what I just said? They take a phone call from the... How is that possible? How is that even possible? Now we fast forward to 2026. It's been 50 years since anybody thought about walking on the moon or going to the moon. Why is that? Why did it take so long to go back? And don't tell me, oh, they didn't have the technology. If they were speaking on cell phones on the moon back then, if they was taking phone calls, allegedly, on the moon back then, they had technology, right? So why wasn't it possible to go back? But I guess we're going to sit here and enjoy this moon launch on April 1st, which is tomorrow. See ya there.
We have some major news. A number of world leaders have come out and warned about what's to come next in the Iran war, with multiple of them saying that the information they have keeps them awake at night. That is certainly not something you ever want to hear. The South Korean president said the world is in turmoil over the energy crisis. The situation is so serious that it has even kept me up at night. The immediate problem is grave enough, but the outlook ahead seems even more unstable. The situation is worse than expected. Italy's defense minister said, I am forced to know things about what could happen in the coming week and the effects it will have on the economy and our daily lives that no longer allows me to sleep. So multiple leaders in different countries, in different positions of power, all saying the same thing, that things are about to get worse and it keeps them up at night. And you can thank Donald Trump for putting us in this situation.
The federal government just confirmed that they are about to start diluting your gasoline this May. So basically, the EPA just announced that starting on May the 1st, gas stations across the country can sell E15 fuel nationwide. If you're somebody that doesn't know what E15 fuel is, it's gasoline that's cut with 15% ethanol instead of just the usual 10. And you literally cannot make this up right now because they are calling it fortifying the domestic fuel supply, which is a really weird way to say that you're just going to be adding more corn juice to people's gas.
The EPA has issued emergency waivers for gasoline blends like E15.
Now this is why it actually matters to you, because ethanol has less energy than regular gasoline, so your car gets worse fuel economy on E15. The entire point of this is that you might be saving about 25 cents per gallon at the pump, but you're burning through it faster, so obviously the savings just cancels itself out. But this is the part that genuinely nobody's talking about, because the EPA normally bans E15 during the summer because ethanol evaporates faster in heat and creates more smog. They explicitly know this, but they just decided to waive their own rule that they made anyways because gas prices are high right now and people are angry. And if you're somebody that owns an older car, a lawnmower, a boat, or a chainsaw, they're saying to be careful because E15 can mess up those engines. So they're making your gas cheaper by just making it worse. Is that even surprising at this point?
Evidence has officially been released that Ray J was telling the truth about entering into a settlement agreement with Kim Kardashian and her mother Kris Jenner back in 2023. As you can see here, this is the bottom of the settlement agreement where their signatures are all listed. Now, let me tell you what's actually in the settlement agreement. Now, what's important to note is that the infamous Ray J and Kim Kardashian tape was a central part of this agreement. However, there was no admission to guilt by either party as per the agreement about how the tape was released or put out there. And in fact, it said that they would no longer be able to sue each other over the tape. Now, there are parts of the settlement agreement that are blacked out for obvious reasons, and one of those parts is the part where they talk about money. Now, if you remember, Ray J did say that they entered into a settlement agreement that was worth $6 million. That basically said that neither one of them would talk disparagingly about one another in any way following this settlement agreement. And that is listed in the agreement. Now, a few weeks back, I shared with you all that Sonia Norwood had broken her silence recently to ask Kris Jenner that if she was not the one who orchestrated the release of the tape, then who? And what I find interesting about that is that Sonia Norwood's name is listed on the settlement agreement, but she is the only one that does not have a signature there, which could mean that she's able to speak freely, and that might be why she's speaking out on behalf of Ray J. And the last thing I'll say is I do think it's a little strange that you would enter into a settlement agreement with someone to not talk about the logistics of the tape being released if there was actually no guilt, if you didn't actually orchestrate it. Anyway, what y'all think?
So if people don't understand what this means that they're going to put 15% ethanol, which is corn. It's made out of corn. It's basically ethyl alcohol that, like I said, it's got a corn base. Well, what it does to your engines is it turns to a blue, like a sugary gum. So like I've always ran 100% gas through my small engines and stuff. But what it does to your vehicles, like your trucks, cars, like the flex fuel ones, they're fine to use it because they, it burns a lot of it off of them. But if it's just my truck's not a flex fuel, they made a flex fuel version, but I didn't get it. Well, this now means that I'm going to have to use fuel additives and all kinds of shit because it'll gum up my injectors, it'll gum up everything in the fuel injection. So this is a fucking terrible shit. This is terrible, man. Instead of getting all the fucking oil refined out of Venezuela that we just took over, instead of, everywhere else that we get our oil, like we have refineries here, we have oil here. Why the fuck are we adding more corn to it so our engines blow? Like there's going to be a shit ton more vehicles this summer because as that shit, the corn in it, the ethanol in it evaporates quicker. So all that shit settles. That's what the blue, like if you ever filled up your tank and you see like blue little particles floating up in your gas tank, or if you fill up your jugs for your outdoor equipment and stuff like your mowers and weed eaters, especially run 100% gas through weed eaters if you have access to it. Because if you don't, you'll have to use additives. But this is fucking terrible, man. This is scary as shit. But like I said, it's going to gum up everybody's carburetors, especially in older cars. The fuel injection system, your fuel injectors aren't going to, they're not going to seat right whenever it burns off when it goes in there for the combustion. I mean, it's going to be terrible. Like people's cars are going to be sitting on the side of the road because, like I said, it'll evaporate. So if you've got any in your fuel lines or your fuel system during the summer and it's hot, then it's just going to sit there and gum them up, and just like the gas will still be there, but it's going to gum up all the little holes, like for your injector. It's going to gum that up because it'll evaporate through there. I mean, it's crazy. And like I said, once it gets hot, it doesn't evaporate. What it does is it turns into this blue gummy stuff. So if you've ever taken a carburetor apart that's ran the ethanol, the E85 or whatever, or not E85, the 93 with 10% ethanol in it, and you see the blue gunk in your carburetor, holy shit, what the fuck has this world come to, man? They just, this was supposed to be the best administration ever, and it's turned into even more of a shit show. This right here is terrible.
There's a theory spreading fast that the ancient gods known as the Anunnaki are returning, and that the Pentagon already knows. Sounds like science fiction, but where did this actually start? Okay, and if you're not familiar with the Anunnaki, they were ancient gods in Sumerian mythology. But in modern, mostly conspiracy circles, they've been reimagined as ancient alien visitors who supposedly came to Earth thousands of years ago. Now, here's the thing. This particular claim, it's not new. It actually traces back a number of years to a guy named Stan Dio, known for his fringe theories. In a podcast, he had said that the buzzword around the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning. And that quote has been recycled ever since. And now it has just resurfaced in a new number of TikToks and podcasts like it's some fresh insider leak. But here's the problem. There's no proof. There's no names. There's no documents, no FOIA requests, anything like that. Not even a second source, just one guy with one quote and a lot of people that are running with it. And not that they would, but the Pentagon hasn't mentioned one thing about this. So is it disinformation? Is it a misread on myth? Or is it a little bit of soft disclosure that slipped through the cracks accidentally? I'm not saying it's all fake. I'm saying if it's real, we should definitely demand some better sources than recycled lore from years ago from a podcast. Because if something this big were really happening, I think there'd be a lot more we could pull from. But let me know your thoughts.
It doesn't matter what y'all think of me. I'm often misunderstood by those with limited brain capacities. Usually when I speak, it's in the spirit. And whenever that carnal mind hears it, that flesh start trembling. I don't care about nobody getting all in their feelings. See, these lyrics hit different when you actually live them. Let's go back for a minute to the very beginning, where I told y'all that I was an Indian. My great auntie, who's 93, told me that my mama's side of the family is Cherokee. She said her parents were never slaves throughout the 1800s. They were farmers, had their own land. Now ain't that something? I can't speak for others, but Africa ain't my homeland. I don't wanna go there either. I'm good right where I stand. They indoctrinated us with all this false history. When you think critically, none of it makes sense logically. I got a great uncle who lives over in Tennessee. 95 wicked memory on his ancestry. He told me, son, don't you know your daddy Choctaw? I was like, no, he left me pondering in deep thought. Had I not asked, I would've still been lost.
Man, this shit is scary, man. I'm glad this lady caught this, man. Look at this shit, man. Look how dangerous and powerful these seeds are. They just finally did a recall. Wow. She just saved some children. Look how powerful.
You need to send that to the company. I'm going to. I'm going to do the other side.
See through you.
To me.
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form. Open your eyes. You think you know how the world works? You think that this material universe is all there is? What is real? What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? At the root of existence, mind and matter meet. Thoughts shape reality. This universe is only one of an infinite number. Worlds without end. Some benevolent and life-giving. Others filled with malice and hunger. Dark places where powers older than time lie, ravenous and waiting. Who are you in this vast multiverse? Mr. Strange? Have you seen that before in a gift shop?
And if you think even for a second I'm paying $900 for a PlayStation 5 Pro, mind you, a 6-year-old console, then they looked you dead in your face and said, effective April 2nd. Like, that's a couple days. Like, damn, immediate back shots, no warm-up. Like, you actively telling us you working on the PS6, but increasing old console prices?
Wake up early, bitch, I gotta get some move. In my pockets, I got cheese, I got dough. I got product moving, shipping.